Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, online audience, everyone. We'll be starting Vietnam Korea Fintech Online Seminar right now. On behalf of Fintech Center Korea and Vietnam Silicon Valley, I would like to welcome and thank you all online audience from Vietnam, Korea, Singapore, and Hong Kong, and overseas to join today's seminar. I'm Song Gyun Sun in Fintech Center Korea. It is my great pleasure to hold today's seminar to promote and enhance Vietnam-Korea's fintech cooperation and partnership in post-COVID-19 era. Please allow me to go over today's program. Seminar will be about 1.5 hour long. The program is co-organized by Fintech Center Korea and Vietnam Silicon Valley. We'll be starting by seminar with the opening remarks by Chairman of Fintech Center Korea and congratulatory remarks by Mr. Dodi Biko, Counselor of Embassy of Vietnam, and Korea's FinTech Landscape presentation by FinTech Center and presentation by VSV, Saigon Capital, University of Hong Kong, and presentation by two promising FinTech companies, Ames and Cecil. Due to the time constraint, all inquiries will be answered in discussion and Q&A session. Now, please welcome Chairman of FinTech Center Korea, Yushin Jung. He leads the Fintech Center Korea and professor of Sogang University. He has extensive experience in fintech industry and finance. Please welcome Yushin Jung for his opening remarks.
Good afternoon, I'm Yushin Jung, Chairman of Fintech Center Korea. Welcome everyone and thank you for joining the third Vietnam-Korea Fintech webinar. This is the third webinar between Vietnam and Korea. We did the first and second in the second half of last year, and we hope this cooperation kept going. First of all, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to Doti Biko, my pronunciation is correct, a counselor from the Embassy of Vietnam in Seoul for giving us congratulatory remarks. I also thanks to Kip Song, a general partner from Vietnam Silicon Valley, who co-organizes this webinar with Fintech Center Korea. There are speakers from the Vietnamese side. I thank to Long Jo from Saigon Capital and Tuom Pan from University of Hong Kong. There are also speakers from the Korean side. I thank to John Lee, Lee Jung Isa님, CTO from Ames, and Young Kim, Kim Yong-sok 대표님 from Cecil for giving us presentation. Finally, I would like to thank all the participants from Vietnam and Korea for enjoying this webinar. The outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic in last year gave us a new uncertainty. Many have suffered since the outbreak. However, as the financial market has been changed, Fintech, which is this time Untitled Finance, has responding the situation very quickly and smartly. Most of the fields of the global Fintech reported its growth last year. And as the convergence of finance and technology is very nimble and innovative, we expect its potential to rebuild market conditions and the full industrial revolution. In perspective of Fintech, there are a lot of opportunities in Vietnam. Korea and Vietnam are working together in various ways to foster the Fintech ecosystem. Vietnam is one of the partner countries of Korean government's new southern policy, and is the #1 country in Korean trade, investment, human exchanges among the 10 ASEAN countries in particular. We hope that these exchanges will help financial innovation related policies and institutions and promote active mutual advancement of fintech in both countries. Two Korean fintech labs have been opened in Hanoi and Hanoi as a accelerating a program to link between Vietnam and Korea. Shinhan Financial Group has operating a Shinhan Future Lab since 2015. As for this year, they selected 5 Korean fintechs, especially doing business in public education. Also, Woody Financial Group has operating Dino Lab. They also selected 5 Korean fintechs and support legal patent accounting consulting for them. In order to respond to digital transformation, mutual cooperation between countries is very, very necessary. Fintech Center Korea operates various support programs to help global fintech cooperation. As you can see, this is a third Vietnam-Korea fintech webinar. The first and second one held in the second of last year. As for now, the fintech webinar series held with 11 countries, 13 co-organizers such as embassies, institutions, more than 10,000 people, 1,000 people participated, especially more than 300 participants enjoyed the two Vietnam webinars. You can see the atmosphere in our YouTube channel. In addition, Fintech Center Korea will hold the third Korea Fintech Week this year, starting from 26th of coming May. We successfully held an event last year with 150 fintech booths, 170,000 online visitors, and over 1.1 million pages views in 3 weeks. Now we upgrade the exhibition with a theme of fintech and sustainable financial innovation. More than 100 booths, recruiting hall, seminars, and so on. So please expect and visit our website. Once again, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the Embassy of Vietnam, Betrnam-Silicon Valley, and other fintech-related personnel from both Vietnam and Korea for joining this webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman, for delivering opening remarks and your great support to fintech industry between Vietnam and Korea. Now, please welcome Ms. Dori Begok from Embassy of Vietnam in Seoul for her congratulatory remarks. She is the counselor and in charge of a science and IC section in Embassy. Please welcome her for congratulatory remarks.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Science and Technology Office, Vietnam Embassy in South Korea, I would like to express my sincere congratulations on the Vietnam-Korea Fintech webinar. And congratulations to Vietnam Silicon Valley and Korea Fintech Center to organize that have made great effort to organize the event in a difficult situation by the COVID-19. As you know, the COVID-19 epidemic has a great impact on business in general and startup particular. South Korea as well as Vietnam has made the effort to reduce the negative impacts on businesses and citizens' operations. Today, Vietnam Silicon Valley as well as the Fintech Center Korea have tried to organize the third Fintech webinar with the aim to introduce the Fintech trends and activation policy of the two countries in post-COVID-19 era. The Fintech market will be an indispensable field in the digital economy. According to new reporting data supplied by Fintech News Singapore, the number of startups in the Vietnam Fintech sector has tripled from the 2017 to 2020. Due to the COVID-19, there are unseen obstacles in the business cooperation with the Korea and Vietnam. However, Fintech is represented by digital and untapped will be fuel. It will fasten the digitalization and new business paradigm in challenging times. With the establishment of the policy framework with the Fintech market and strengthening infrastructures for Fintech, we can hope for a bright future for the Fintech market in Vietnam. I look forward to seeing more and more Fintech startups successfully in the Vietnam and Korea. Congratulations again and holding the event Vietnam Korea Fintech Webinar 2021 My best wishes to the event, and I wish you good health, happiness, and success. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor, for your congratulatory remarks again to enhance Korea and Vietnam's fintech cooperation and future partnership. And now let us begin with our first presentation delivered by Chairman Yoo Shin-jung on fintech's ecosystem and policy in Korea.
Sorry, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yoo Shin-jung again. The title I briefly talk about is the Fintech. This digitization of finance in Korea. Before telling it, I would like to explain about fourth industrial revolution. There are many explanations of fourth industrial revolution explained by the chairman of Davos Forum, Klaus Schwab. But I would like to personally describe like this screen. You see, I made a fourth industrial revolution to be digital mobile platform revolution plus ABCDIG revolution. It's a so-called infrastructure technology revolution. In other words, unlike the first, second, and third industrial revolution, which is based on manufacturing technology revolution, I think the fourth industrial revolution is more focusing on distribution market revolution, from the traditional analog market to the digital and mobile market, even though it includes technological revolution. You see, it creates a huge amount of big data from digital and mobile platform within very, very short period of time. And they can be fused with infrastructure technology like ABCDIJ, as I show you, AI, blockchain, cloud, IoT, and 5G, etc. And so I think there is no big data and there is no ABCDIG without the distribution market revolution, without mobile platform revolution. So, and as you know, post-COVID pandemic world, I think every industry has been digitalized very rapidly. We gain the information communicated by products through digital and mobile. This picture shows that how much our world is affected by digitalized city in the stock market. Let's compare with 10 years ago. There were only 2 digital ICT companies in the top 10 in terms of stock market capitalization, market cap, in 10 years ago. But now there are 7 companies, there is 70% of top 10 is digital ICT companies. And also 9 companies, there is 90% of top 10 other ICT and digital companies also, which are doing Fintech. So from the viewpoint of stock market, you can see, I think we can see digital and ICT doing Fintech has the power. The Fintech. I made this picture, Mr. Jung Smart Day. This is my name. From 7:30 in the morning to evening, including financing by use of crowdfunding, buying webs present by PayPal, SM managing by robo-advisor, all are being done in our smartphone, in our platform, in our hand, which means saving a lot of time. Let's say we work for 10 hours a day. If we spend more than 1 hour going to bank or going to the shopping mall, we can save 1 hour by just using mobile platform in our hand. So we can assure our productivity will increase. Eventually, it will lead to not only the individual the productivity, but also lead to a rise in corporate productivity. It's a huge. So which means the fintech, digitalization of financial market is pretty important. Why does fintech lead innovation? Fourth industrial revolution era, the finance is a leader of innovation. In analog age, manufacturing leads innovation, and many the textbook about economy and finance says finance is a shadow of a real economy, or role of intermediation or exchange. But in digital or mobile age, I think finance is much faster than manufacturing, and so it leads the innovation. Why? By use of digital screen, mobile screen in our hand, finance is not intangible anymore. It is becoming changed into tangible, because we can see very easily in the screen, and so we can explain the financial services very, very easily, even though there are some the language barrier and cultural barrier. So it is pretty the big thing, I think. And also another thing is that the production, sale, consumption cycle of fintech is much shorter than any of manufactured goods, because basically first one is there's no delivery time. There is no even we do not need to drone because it's intangible, so we can buy and instantly we can consume. There is no time of delivery. And also the important thing is that if we can use data, especially the data of the consumers, and then very easily we can customize financial service for individual. The production to sale cycle is much shorter because it is intangible, very quick in our hand. So production, sale, and consumption cycles, fintech is the shortest than any of the manufactured goods, which means it's a very big pressure, under pressure, the innovation or innovation from the consumer side, because the consumers link with each other and give their opinion in the the SNS. So which means before finance is kind of following the manufacturers innovation, but in the first industrial revolution, which means basically market the distribution revolution, the finance is the leading the innovation. This shows current status of Korea fintech industry. Banking sector, simple payment and remittance is growing very rapidly. Even though simple payments are about the 4% of total amount of credit card payment, but it's more than tripled in the last 3 years. The right side of the screen, you can see Korean neobanks. 3 neobanks has been approved in Korea. Among them, KakaoBank shows distinct growth. It accumulated 4.35 million non-face-to-face accounts within just 100 days after start of service. It turned to a surplus in less than 2 years. So many banks in banking sector were very astonished. we are titling it. I had a definition so-called catfish effect. This shows the P2P loan. P2P loan business is very good business model in long term in terms of its flexible business model and the effect of financial inclusion. But right now, Korean government much concerned about it because real estate related loans are very significant portion of total P2P loan in Korea. Particularly COVID-19 negatively influences very much. Robo-advisor, the right side of the screen, started in Korea about 4 years ago, and until now, not that much strong. But because from this year, Korea has entered into a data economy era, and big data about capital market gives a high potential in robo-advisor market. Recently, COVID-19 has led to digitalization of securities. So it has led to a rapid increase in robo-advisor accounts in Korea. Crowdfunding is one of funding methods of startup, and also it's one of the financial inclusion vehicle in that it helps venture startups. Unlike angel investor or venture capitalist, many investors participate in crowdfunding. Even though it is small money, but because a lot of people invest, so gather the money is so big. For last 3 years, it increased 5 times. Crowdfunding in Korea is a little bit different from those of the other countries. Crowdfunding in Korea is just focusing on equity side. Sometimes in global market, crowdfunding and the P2P is mingled with each other. But in Korea, crowdfunding is just only belong to capital market. P2P is only to lending market. And lastly, insurance started late, but as in the global market, interest in Korea is growing very rapidly. And I think the second half of this year, the InsurTech in Korea will have a big growth, and the more and more investors very much interested in InsurTech. And where Korean fintech innovation is located, you see the step 1, 2, 3, 4. Step 1, unbundling. Very in the first stage of the fintech emergence, and step 2, platform stage, which means the mobile platform in our hand, and the third step, step 3, is the using big data with the infrastructure technology ABCDIG, and step 4, the last stage is the stage with the finance and the non-finance convergence. Korea, where is Korea located? You see, the step 3, because the beginning of from the beginning of last year, Korea, the National Assembly passed 3 data-related laws. So Korea has stepped into data economy era. Which means we can use the data, especially the data of the consumers, and so we can use big data with the infrastructure technology ABCDIG. So Korea financial market is in step 3 at this moment. As you see, step 3 is we are using data. With the infrastructure technology, particularly AI is most important in this stage. So not only financial institution and the fintech enterprise, but also the non-financial companies like big tech, so-called big tech. Big tech means big tech pin, big the fintech enablers coming into started to come into financial market. So last February, Korean financial government designated 29 the my data operators. Among them some non-financial companies, big techs like the Kakao and Naver that has been designated, and so big changes and starting in this stage. Environmental change in fintech industry in Korea. As the Korean National Assembly passed, as I told you, the amendments to the 3 major data privacy laws in the beginning of last year. Korea has come into a data economy era, and you see, Korean National Assembly passed, and then there are another things, regulatory sandbox policy and open banking. The Korean National Assembly passed a legislation called the Financial Innovation Support Act on December of 2018. Based on this act, you see, the open banking and regulatory sandbox policy came into force. So far, 6 commercial bank and 20 fintech companies have signed up for the first round of open banking. So people can see all different banks' transactions in one bank account. The second round is undergoing. Sooner or later, more local banks, more fintech firms and financial institutions will join. Sandbox regulatory. The companies are granted with a temporal approval for the innovative services. Up to now, total 140 of financial innovative services providers designated as innovative financial services for regulatory sandbox for last 2 years. And as a result of these infrastructure, including open banking, regulatory sandbox, and you see, the data exchange, a new converged industry, so-called my data business, is about to emerge. Let me talk about my data business more. It's very meaningful because it's the first new business model of Korea data economy era. It gathers all personnel data so that individual can search their integrity data and can design, customize the financial product. Now, not only financial institution and fintech enterprise, but also non-financial companies are coming into this business. I see Korean financial market is showing a big change and big digital transformation, particularly my data business makes financial industry as the platform, kind of platform, and then in where the loyalty of customer and the possibility of market expansion is pretty important. So I think that many the financial institution and fintech and big techs will change their business model, and they started to converge with each other. Particularly, I think the financial platform will converge or fuse with some other the services such as retail and distribution and game and the healthcare. They are all kind of I think similar in terms of they are in terms of services. They can mingle with each other to give the customers more better, much better services in one platform. So those kind of a big change, and the competition will start sooner or later. And so I hope this the very competitive and the very rapidly changing environment. I think we can have some opportunity for Vietnam and Korea, the fintech and financial institution, if they come into this market and we have join or make join the opportunity together. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, for your insightful comments and your presentation on Korean fintech markets and future cooperation between Vietnam and Korea. Now, please welcome Mr. Gibson from Vietnam Silicon Valley. Vietnam Silicon Valley is the first capital fund started in Vietnam in 2019 on March. It is the most big and largest accelerator to promote Vietnam's acceleration and startups. Please welcome Mr. Gibson from Vietnam Silicon Valley Capital.
Thank you very much, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gibson. I'm general partner at VSB Capital, based here in Hanoi, Vietnam. I would like to thank everyone for joining the third Vietnam-Korea FinTech webinar, co-hosted by VSB Capital and Korea Fintech Center. Especially, I would like to thank Mr. Long and Mr. Dr. Fan, who are joining from Singapore and Hong Kong, respectively, amid their busy schedule away from home. Next page. I'd like to begin by giving you a quick overview of VSB Capital. VSB Capital was started in 2013 as a government project to build a startup ecosystem in Vietnam. As a result of this year-long project, VSB Accelerator was born. Since 2014, VSB hosted 6 business accelerator batches, and we invested in more than 60 early-stage startups. In 2017, VSB welcomed its first foreign investor, namely Lotte, and in 2019, VSB launched its first venture capital fund with LPs from Korea, USA, and Vietnam. VSB Capital is industry agnostic, but lately we are shifting our focus to fintech, edutech, and agritech in pre-seed to Series A stages. Next page. We have 2 full-time partners. Ling Han is founder of VSB Accelerator, and he has been involved in every aspect of VSB Accelerator business, from fundraising to investing, since day one. In recognition for his devotion and contribution to the Vietnam startup ecosystem, he was honored as top 30 people under 30 years of age by Forbes Asia in 2020. Myself, I began my professional career as a researcher at a university in Canada before joining Samsung. After staying at Samsung for 16 years, I joined the Silicon Valley VC firm, Big Basin Capital, as a founding member. As a VC and an angel investor, I invested in more than 24 companies and some reasonable successes. Tapas Media was sold to Kakao Page, ODK Media and Cookcat was acquired by NHN Entertainment and CJ, respectively, and some other companies are doing quite well. Next page. I'm very proud of our advisors. On the left is Mr. Han Ngoc Vu. He is CEO of one of Vietnam's major commercial banks, namely Vietnam International Bank. I'm sure he will want to join VSB as a partner as soon as his banking career is over. Mr. Dong was Deputy Minister of Ministry of Planning and Investment. He was the Deputy Minister overseeing Vietnam Silicon Valley project in 2013. VSB Accelerator would not be where it is now without his support. On the right is Mr. Josh Chung. He is an American CPA and a cross-border investor working between USA, Korea, and Vietnam. He's helped us a great deal with fundraising, and he's also mentoring our portfolio companies whenever he can. Next page. Here are some of our individual and institutional LPs. Mr. Kwon on the left is a former Minister of Ministry of Science and Technology, and Mr. Han Vu and his wife, Mr. Tak Leang, they invest their own money. They are leading by example by investing in their own money in our fund. Dr. Lim is former CEO of Samsung Electronics and Vice Chairman of SK Telecom. And Mr. So on the right is CEO of a Samsung supplier, Namuga, which is a listed company in Korea. Besides the individuals, we have some institutional LPs, namely Ascendo Ventures and Lotte Accelerator from Korea, and Ho Chi Minh City government, Department of Science and Technology is a big supporter of us. Next page. Here's the map of okay, and here are the investors who have co-invested with VSB. Top line is the Korean VCs, and below are Singaporeans and Americans and other venture capitals who have been co-invested with us. Next page. Here's the map of fintech startups surveyed by our friends at Singapore Fintech News. In 2020, there were more than 100 fintechs in operation in Vietnam, and the list is growing fast. Next page. Next page. As you can see from this chart, the payment sector is leading the way, attracting the most activities led by ZaloPay, VNPay, Momo, and Mocha. Next in line is P2P lending, and it's followed closely by blockchain technologies. Next page. This is my last page. Here are some of the VSB's own portfolio companies and our important partners. We have invested in 4 fintech companies to date, namely Loop, Instamo, WeCare, and Huidong. Loop is a smart POS company actively doing business in Vietnam. Hawking Instamo is a cross-border remittance company, also based in Ho Chi Minh. WeCare, by the way, Hawking was the winner, first place winner of 2019 Fintech Summit, which was co-organized by Welcome Bank of Korea and VSB. WeCare and Huizong are insurance, tech, and personal finance companies, respectively. In Korea, VSB has been partnering with the Korean government agency, KISED, for the last 4 years, trying to bring Korean startups to Vietnam's market. Through KISED, a global accelerating program, we have helped a number of Korean startups, including some fintechs. One of the fintechs that we have helped in Vietnam is AIMS, who will be making presentations today. Next, please. So if anyone is interested in expanding its business in Vietnam or just want to research the opportunities in fintech in Vietnam, VSB would like to be your gateway and partner in Vietnam. I will end my brief introduction to give more time for our experts' presentations. Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson, for your organizing cooperation in enhancing Vietnam-Korea fintech industry and partnership. Now, please welcome Mr. Long Do from Saison Capital. Saison Capital is a leading fintech-focused investment capital. Mr. Long Do has a very extensive professional experience in Silicon Valley, Asia, and Vietnam. Please welcome Mr. Long Do from Saison Capital for his insightful comments and presentation.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. So just quickly introduce myself and the firm. My name is Long. I'm currently associate at Saison Capital. In the past, I was in Silicon Valley doing the startup in media industry. Then I spent a few years working at the research at Stanford Business School and a short stint at the Federal Reserve in the US. And I got my, so I spent my undergrad at Stanford and then got my master's degree in public policy. So, regarding to about Saison Capital, we are one, we is mainly invest in Southeast Asia and India, invest in early stage startup from pre-seed to Series B. So, and one of the space that we're extremely interested in is called the embedded finance. So, embedded finance, and we think that this is the space that going to be a large opportunity in Southeast Asia and India. So, so that is going to be the topic for today. I would like to introduce what is embedded finance, and how the trend, how and why this trend play out in the tech and financial ecosystem, especially in Southeast Asia. And we want to show that how what and who have been investing within this macro trend of embedded finance, and what kind of vertical or space that investor can look at to invest in embedded finance. So just quickly, recap embedded finance company. So embedded finance company is technically just traditional, just a traditional startup, and they decide that they just grow their business, and gradually they provide financial services. Some of the really easy example is going to be Grab starting a ride hailing app and gradually provide like Grab payment, Grab insurance, Grab healthcare. Or we also have Amazon. Now Amazon have full services of all the fintech. So the reason that we see the trend of traditional startup going to provide financial services, because there are two multiple reasons. One of the reason is distribution. So right now it's easier, cheaper, larger, more efficient distribution process to customer. So instead, originally banks spend a lot of time to acquire customer. Right now, Grab already have the distribution channel. There's already the app on their phone, so they can easily provide financial services on top of their current app. Second is there's a lot of resources right now. A lot of banks, a lot of bank traditional institutions want to provide the fintech services, to like the mass population, and they willing to work with the startup to provide that. And I think the third one is data. We should have more data. So when you have more data, you can customize your products. You can target this specific group of people and certain services to provide that. So that is what embedded finance. And so as you say, this is the map to highlight how traditionally financial traditionally actually financial transaction have been served by a bank. But gradually, is financial transactions is better served or distributed by specific non-fintech platforms. So as I mentioned earlier on this slide here, we have bank. Bank have been providing financial services to customer. But as we move forward, we realize that a lot of non-fintech platforms like WeChat, Zalo, Kakao, Grab, they have really unique advantage. It's one of the unique advantage is actually they have better distributions. Yeah, they have better distributions, and they really data driven, because they tech startup, so they're able to collect a ton of data and they leverage the data to create better business decisions. And also they is more convenient. So usually Grab app, WeChat, we use it all the time, really high frequency. So so people use it all the time, so it's quite convenient to use the app for financial services at all as well. So this is some of the so this is three core functions that we think is like traditional company doing, and this is also the space that actually the startup going to break into. First of all, the core function is transfer store value. So one of example is payments. So payment right now, a lot of traditional startup already into like we pay, WeChat, Zalo Pay, or a lot of messaging app provide payment services. And other services is lending and investments. So right now, original banks provide lending, provide investment opportunities. Now you see like Robinhood, right? or Grab, provide lending, or Uber in the US provide lending for their customer, for their driver. And also there's the opportunity that people can invest in certain kind of stocks as well. And right now we also see a lot of companies try to provide insurance for their driver. So a lot of this vertical, we start seeing that startup going to enter the space. So this is an example of, and this is example of different companies tackle different subsectors, sub-vertical. So we pay here is going to tackle payments, all right? They're going to, payment, peer-to-peer payment to the stores. We have Udaan. Udaan is one of the largest, it is the largest B2B e-commerce in India. It's a unicorn. And what they originally started is a place for B2B e-commerce merchant to buy goods from their distributor. But now they want to provide Udaan credit, which is supply chain financing services to their merchants. So we just tackle the payment, Udaan tackle the supply chain financing. So in the sense is that there's so many sectors that different traditional startup can jump in and provide fintech financial services. So this is the chart is that we know that is a trend. This is what the vertical can break into. Now we also see a lot of trend that VC, we start putting a lot of money into it. Right, Udaan, B2B marketplace, we have a lot of major investors. Telio, B2B marketplace as well. We have health and wellnesses. We have health and wellnesses, ride hailing. Or virtual, different sector. They a lot of investors looking at them. And this is a little bit higher level, but embedded finance, there's multiple ways you can embed your finance. One way to do this is that non-fintech companies that provide fintech services. And all the company is that you help the non-fintech company to connect to fintech or banks. And also is that you can also help a non-fintech company to provide fintech services. So that is some of the space that people can enter the fintech space. And this is next chart is that vast opportunity for embedded finance. We can see that can go in from B2B, you can virtually provide lending, correspondent payment, escrow, credit scoring, payment, insurance, wallets, personal finance. So EdTech, there's different vertical. EdTech, you can provide lending for parents. You can do credit scoring, payment, etc. So different vertical have different fintech services that you can provide, and that is what we at Saison we're really excited about. Is that we look at different vertical and we see which kind of financial services they can provide. And we see that, okay, whether we can invest in that and we can support them to build the financial services. So that is the string of Saison Capital. We provide better value added than really good value because we can even support the non-fintech founder. First of all, we can provide debt capital. We're one of the largest wholesale debt lender in Southeast Asia. We have the tech team in India that can advise and guide the startup to build a fintech services, financial services as they grow. And also we have one of our partner that able to help you to do prototype and pilots of the fintech services. So all in all, embedded finance, we really believe embedded finance is going to be the future of Southeast Asia, and Southeast Asia is about the reason for that is that startup able to have distribution channel and better data, and they can build the financial service on top of that. And the third reason is also I think fintech is the best way to monetize. It's really difficult to monetize in Southeast Asia. So fintech is the way for the company to make profit in the long term and return return the money to investor. So that's all, from my part.
Thank you, Longzhou, for your insightful comments and your perspective on embedded finance in Asia and Pacific. Now, please welcome Professor Tuan Pham from University of Hong Kong. His presentation is on technology disruption in financial services in Vietnam. Professor Tuan Pham is an associate professor at the University of Hong Kong. He has a very extensive experience in academia and also industry. Please welcome Professor Tuan Pham for his presentation.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the organizers of the Vietnam Silicon Valley, the Chairman Jung, and also Gibbs for inviting me to this talk. Happy to be here and share some of my thoughts. So I just want to give a little bit of kind of my background and also kind of explain a little bit of my views on some of these things. So currently, I'm a professor associate professor in marketing and innovation and information management at HKU Business School. Where essentially my study, my research, my expertise is in digital economies. And fintech has been a leading driver of a lot of research and teaching as well. Another thing that's coming down the pipeline is now I'll be the director of a new center for HKU. So we're establishing the HKU Vietnam Center in the BitExco Center in Ho Chi Minh City. So we really welcome partnerships and ways that we can connect and see how we can be there. And the goal of this center is then to, we want to establish as the forefront leading research university, global university in Vietnam to help connect businesses and researchers to Vietnam. Okay. So prior to HKU, I spent about 9 years at NUS, where I was at the information systems and analytics and operations, both at School of Computing and at the business school.
No, it's going to be open. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. But so before that,
I think should have, we should have like 100 or 200 budgets per person for drinks and anything.
Okay. I think someone's microphone might be on. But yes, so prior to that, a little bit back my background.
We should have budgets, right?
So I think Long, I think your microphone might be on.
Mr. Long, can you please turn off your microphone?
And
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so I was born in Vietnam, but I grew up in the United States and I had the opportunity to go to MIT, where I was really an engineer by training. So I was a triple major, and during that time, I also had a startup while doing my undergrad, where we were building solutions for mobile devices. Chances are you probably haven't heard about our company, because that's where I kind of learned the hard way that just because we have good technology, and arguably we have the best technology, doesn't necessarily mean that we'll get market success. All right, so after a bit of time in the startup world, also in the corporate world, I decided to go back to business school and apply kind of my technical training to the business domain. So luckily, I would just hop down the subway 2 stops down to do my PhD at the business school. And at the time, it was a novel concept to use big data sets for business applications. Right? Nowadays, more than a decade later, this seems to be quite common. So here in HKU, I'm teaching a lot on big data, teaching a lot on fintech, also social media, a lot of retail, and anything that really deals with consumer data. So I hear a lot of themes from previous speakers talking about data. So my research and my teaching is talking about how different types of businesses can use that data and what kind of insights can we bring, how can we align business models with the data. Other roles I played, I've also been an expert witness for some high-profile court cases for Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. And one of the key things I do is also collaborate with industry partners to kind of bring in more insights and more real-life hands-on experience to the students into the research. So I've been involved in a lot of collaboration with large companies as well as startups I'm also involved with investment committees, consulting boards, and whatnot. Right. So I've given a bunch of keynote talks also in Vietnam and around the region, around the world. Right. So I've worked with a number of companies. I worked at Facebook data science for over 10 years, where we analyzed massive data sets of users around the world. A lot of also retail. P&J is the largest luxury jeweler in Vietnam. I worked with a dairy farm as well in Hong Kong, Alibaba in China, Chengyi in Singapore, and Wing Chai Group in Singapore as well. Right. We worked with a number of tech companies and new platforms. So I've also worked with some advertising platforms in Korea, Cashlight, which is an opt-in advertising. But in the fintech space, then, which I want to highlight a little bit more in this talk, is I had a fortunate opportunity to work with a number of companies. One I'll talk about today is Dai, also known as Finvolution, and they're the largest peer-to-peer lending company in mainland China. The company's also been listed in New York Stock Exchange. So I've had a number of collaborations with them, and now they're helping them to try to expand into the region, including Indonesia, Vietnam, and the rest of ASEAN and the world. Okay. And also been an investor in a number of companies. So I've been investment committee for New Cheap Capital, which is a family-owned business in Hong Kong, where we invest in impact investing and also undervalued founders. Okay, so that's a bit where I'm coming from. A couple of things that we're noticing on the banking is, especially the fintech space, is the unbundling of banking services, which some of the previous speakers have mentioned. Right, we see that especially when tech companies come into the banking space, they tend to do one thing very well, right? Whether it be payments, deposits, lending, insurance, or investments in capital markets. Okay, but if you study these products overall, not just in banking but in other domains, we see that the products tend to be unbundled and then rebundled. So some of the questions right now we're studying is, when is it good and when is it optimal to unbundle versus when services should be bundled. From traditional banking services, they do know, however, that there are different margins on different types of products. Right? So we see that, for example, lending tends to be the biggest margins and biggest profits for traditional financial institutions, whereas payments tends to be the lowest margin. So my personal view on this, I understand that sometimes payments is an easy way to get distribution, but the margins there will quickly go down to zero. Right? So when traditional banks see payments, they generally don't go into payments because of the low margins on payments. But when traditional banks then would rather focus on lending, whether that be small loans, SME loans, retail loans, or consumer loans. We also monitor a lot of regulations across different sectors. And I would roughly put it into three major clusters with different countries lying in between. So I would say Vietnam's somewhere in between these clusters, right? So on one side you have Europe, which is highly regulated. They have a big push for open data. Consumers have the rights for their own data. I mean, that drives a lot of issues for companies where they are limited on how much data they can use. Okay. On the other hand, if you look at China, China is highly connected, especially in the mobile space. I would say that this is somewhat of an outlier, that sometimes when we look at Chinese companies trying to go to Southeast Asia, they expect Southeast Asia to be as connected as China. And they find that sometimes that it is disappointingly not so. And sometimes the same business model that works in China may not work so much in ASEAN and in Vietnam. So we see, Alipay, WeChat Pay have had great success in China, but then when they try to port their models, it doesn't work as well. On the other hand, you look at another place like US, where the regulations are a bit more unclear. And the US regulators sometimes tend to wait to see what happens, right? And you see, so some of the clearinghouse networks, some of the credit card networks and credit scoring network is to take effect. So just to summarize a few recurring themes we're seeing. One is in Vietnam and emerging markets, we see a big issue with literacy. And this is some of my ongoing research on this, where we show that it's first off, it's just the ability to read and write can be a big challenge. Next up then is we also have financial literacy. So we crunch the data for China, for example. We see that university education does not necessarily equate to financial literacy. And this is also a big problem because many of these people, it might be the first time they have access to financial services. If they do not understand that they have to make payments and they have to pay interest and the terms and conditions of a loan, for example, they may not be able to repay. All right. So we're trying to understand how can we address financial literacy issues, either through products and services or through education, through other means. We also have less so a problem, which is digital literacy. This is becoming less so an issue because Asia in general is picking up quite quickly, but there's still segments of the population who are being left out in this digital literacy community, this economy. Other recurrent themes we see are a lot of credit scoring. It used to be a trend that people would do unsecured lending. And I believe that so increasingly so it's becoming less and less popular, and people are looking towards using more collaterals, right? But collaterals are also challenging because of the legal structure in many countries. So how do you kind of show that someone owns this house, or that they have a certain ID that's connected to their themselves? Other ones, as other people have mentioned, is data. So there is a big battle over from many different tech companies to try to get as much data as they can. Right. So I think that Mr. Long was right on, is that there will be a big fight for who can get the most data from consumers, and that's where we see what he calls the embedded financial services starting to win, because they're able to get so much data through ride-hailing, through e-commerce, through whatever means. Also, recurring themes is what's the risk appetite and trust of the consumers, of the lenders, and of the regulators. We see some, from the regulators' perspective, we see some major issues in countries like Cambodia, where there's a huge amount of debt that's owned by the citizens. Citizens, on average, Cambodian citizens own about 3 times more than their annual earnings. Right, which is going to cause a huge financial crisis for the country. So I think that a lot of the Vietnamese regulators are quite aware of this and quite cautious when they're trying to introduce new regulation. Right. So as I mentioned, regulation is a huge issue. In peer-to-peer lending, in China, the regulations have a tremendous roller coaster. Right. In the early 2010s, there were a few peer-to-peer lending companies, grew to thousands of companies. Regulators came in, made it much more strict, and many of those companies have closed shop, and only left about half a dozen of companies remaining. So another thing we see is the fintech versus the tech fins. Whether that's a tech company introducing financial services or traditional financial institutions introducing more tech. So you see that, for example, in Singapore, companies like DBS have their own incubators. They're trying to use more tech as a bank, right? And they're trying to incubate their own. And then finally, a major last theme that we're seeing is the difference between distribution versus deep tech. Right. What I mean by this is sometimes, I'm a tech person. I love tech, but sometimes that you don't need such deep tech, but you just need a greater distribution. We see sometimes major companies, tech companies, invest so much in tech, but then lack the distribution to really make it a success. Right. So to give a quick case study, this is Dai and Finvolution. This is a new business case study that we just finished. It'll be available soon for purchase. and we're working with them for about 2 to 3 years in many ways. So there's a new case study through our HKU Asia Case Research Center. And also with our Vietnam Center, we're looking to establish more and more of these cases of successful Vietnamese companies to highlight and to showcase to the rest of the world as well. So if you know any, we're happy to talk and see how we can collaborate on this as well. Okay. So Finvolution is quite an interesting company. They have about 100 million users, both lenders and borrowers. It's New York Stock Exchange listed since 2014, I believe. And their strategy is that they invested heavily in deep tech. Right? So they have a team of 60 PhDs, computer science, in analytics in various areas, where they created new credit scoring models, fraud detection, and voice and customer service solutions. All right, but because of the changing laws and regulations in China, they really had to pivot. And it made it increasingly more and more difficult to do peer-to-peer lending for them and other similar companies. Okay, so Thailand had to pivot to try to export that technology to ASEAN. And their two targets were Indonesia and Vietnam. So I tried to help them, try connecting with different partners in Vietnam. And I'd say that it's really key to try to find the right partner. The regulations have been innovative and progressive, but also there's still some gaps, right? So we talked to SBV, State Bank of Vietnam, and some regulators to try to help them with this, but I think at this point it's still not quite ready yet to be launched in Vietnam. So one of the things we also notice is the differing consumer behavior of, say, Chinese users as opposed to Indonesians versus Vietnamese. So for Finvolution, they did successfully launch in Indonesia with a partner, with a banking license. But it was a bit surprising to them that actually the Indonesian users were not as mobile and digital savvy as the Chinese users. And that really challenged their fundamental business model, because they relied so much on getting big data of heavy mobile users in China, but the Indonesian users were just not the same, right? So I think that's a couple of takeaways that we kind of see. So I would suggest then if for foreign companies trying to look to set up in Vietnam, the key is really to find the right partner with the right distribution. All right, just because it works in the native home country does not necessarily mean it will work in Vietnam, because of differing consumer behavior in these segments. Okay, so thank you. I'd be happy to talk more offline, but that gives you a few things. As I mentioned, we're actively going to be on in Ho Chi Minh City, in Big Expo Center. So I hope to connect and learn more about what's going on, and also write about interesting cases and interesting findings and new business models. But thank you very much. I'd be happy to connect through these channels.
Thank you, Professor Tuan Pham, for sharing your excellent views and fintech issues, trends, and case studies, and Finvolution in financial services in Vietnam and the ASEAN region. We'll talk more in the Q&A session for other issues. Now, we're very happy to have two Korean promising fintech companies for presentation. One is Ames. Please welcome John Lee. He's a CTO in Ames, and Future of a Claim. Please welcome John Lee for your presentation. You may start your presentation.
Xin chào. It is a great pleasure to participate in this event. I want to thank Fintech Center Korea and VSV for giving me this opportunity to introduce ourselves. My name is John Lee, and I'm the co-founder and CTO of Ames. Well, Ames is an insurtech company founded in 2017, and we focus on the claim management. I believe the fact that we are focusing on one of the core process of insurance companies makes us quite unique among the insurtech startups. There are three axes in our business: financial services regulator, insurers, and insurance policyholders. They also represent our target market. Since we started our business, we have been working with top-tier insurance companies in Korea on digital transformation and claim process innovation. For the regulator, we first met Financial Supervisory Services in 2019 when we participated in their Regulation Technology Showcase as a speaker. There, we started to discuss the new model of supervision, and now we are in the process of reaching consent to provide our technology and designing how it can be implemented in the new supervision model. And last but not least, there is a policyholder side. We have always been wanting to reach insurance consumers directly, hear their actual voices, and resolve their frustration. Therefore, we have been developing a chatbot-based claim management service, including claim case analysis and providing a detailed explanation on the payouts they get. We plan to launch our first B2C service this year. Well, we have developed a unique technology and service to automate claim process. Through our products and services, we expect to give better experience to our customers and customers of our clients. Our first product, AutoDid, reads and analyzes insurance terms and policies and changing the text into computer language. Through this algorithm, we can design a system that calculates insurance benefits corresponding to each claim cases. We can also develop a system which inspects a closed claim to detect errors in the payouts. Our second product and service is called Auto Capture. I call it a product and service because we not only developed the technology to automatically capture data, but also a work platform which includes data cleansing and QA process and function so that we can offer a turnkey service for claim data management. And lastly, we developed a third-party claim handling platform, which is called AutoClaim. Through this system, we can provide our service to insurance companies and policyholders. For the insurers, we are the claim handlers to process their claim filed. And for the policyholders, we can provide a personalized claim management service. With our system and services, we recorded sales of $2.5 million in US dollars over the past 4 years. Our team members, these are the key members of our team. We are from many different backgrounds, including management consultants, IT specialists, and claim handler. The founder of AIMS has been worked as a management consultant specializing in insurance industry over 10 years. Our COO has a claim adjuster license in Korea and in the United States, and had worked in Korea's largest P&C insurance company before he joined AIMS. Our system architect, who is also a doctor in computer science, has more than 20 years of experience in the insurance IT sector. Our QA manager has more than 5 years of experience as a claim handler. Well, we all had different work experience before joining AIMS, but one thing in common is that we all have been working in the insurance industry, and we see a lot of opportunities in this market. Well, we got some notable achievements in business and other activities. We've been providing our technology and services to Korea's top-tier insurance companies. And I can proudly say that AIMS is the only startup which developed claim automation technology. For the activities, we got credit from some major companies and government organizations. Now we are scaling up our service with our clients and developing digital claim management service for policyholders, and plan to expand our service abroad. We successfully closed pre-A funding last year, and we are opening a Series A funding round on the latter half of this year. Along our journey, we met many insurers and organizations, and luckily we got much support from them. We participated in the accelerating program from Fintech Center Korea, Korea Startups Agency, Association of General Insurance, and Vietnam Silicon Valley. Through this program, we could solidify our business model, meet some of our key clients, and get many other assistance and benefits from them. On the client side, we're trying our best to meet their expectations since they showed much trust in our capability. We're now in the process of concluding contracts with 2 other insurance companies, And by the end of this year, we expect to have top 5 largest general insurance companies as our clients. Well, let me explain why we see much potential in this market. We are hearing demands for a new service. 60% of complaints filed to the regulator came from the insurance sector. And also 70% of these complaints are related to claim process. We think that lack of explanation regarding the claim cases and benefits paid causes frustration of the customers. Well, insurance companies cannot spend enough time to process all these overflowing claims in the old-fashioned way due to the lack of resources. Just to give you an idea, one top-tier insurance company processes over 8 million claim cases annually, and benefits paid from these cases are more than $3 billion. This imbalance between the demand from the customers and the resource of service supplier also applies to the regulator. As a result, financial supervisory services is making investments in shifting to a new paradigm of supervision. Our technology can be used in this future model. Once the regulator gets the data interface from the insurance companies, and the data goes through our system, and then they can examine millions of transactions within a few minutes. So instead of using human resource in inspection of a small portion, our system reviews majority of these cases, letting people focus on more valuable work, such as analyzing error patterns and provide a guideline on the recurring conflict between insurance companies and policyholders. This is another reason for the increasing number of customers' complaints. These are the actual messages when you get when your claim is processed from the insurance company. Well, I know it's all in Korean, but I guess if you take a closer look, you may be able to see the points I make. It is not structured, very verbose, but crucial information is not included. It also uses a lot of jargons, but does explain what these words mean. Also, if you have any questions regarding your claim, you need to make a phone call to the insurance company's call center, which is only reachable during the working hours. And of course, you need to wait in line or get your call forwarded several times to talk to the claim handler. Well, we really think that the customers need to know about their product they bought and get a hassle-free service when you think of the amount of insurance premium they pay. Well, that is the reason why we want to talk to the insurance consumers directly and let them know how they were covered and make them appreciate about the value of insurance. Delivering such service is not an easy task. There are thousands of insurance policies sold, and each claim cases are different. So how can we deliver a premium service, a quality service to the policyholders? And how can we detect errors from numerous claim cases? We've been reviewed more than 50 million claim cases and dealt with over 300 million claim data. So with this experience and the technology developed along the way, we believe we can resolve the asymmetric information in the insurance industry. And why are we doing this? We are working on this hard task to achieve our mission. We wish to contribute in the advancement of the industry and rebuild the trust in the insurance service providers. Well, if you're interested in our service and technology, feel free to send us an email. For the regulators, we can offer an advisory service or technology transfer on developing a data-driven monitoring system. For the insurance company, we can work together on digital transformation on the claim process. For the startups, we can talk about a partnership to start a new business and service for policyholders, such as a service named Your Personal Claim Advisor. You can reach us by the email slide. It is contact@aimskr.com. Please send us your name, organization, or company, and agenda to discuss. And most of the process can be done online with the minimal cost. for a more in-depth discussion, if necessary, offline meeting can be entailed. Well, this is the last slide. We believe innovation comes from an attention to detail. The opportunities out there, and we need to find it with fresh eyes. Thank you so much for your attention this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, John Lee from Ames on your InsurTech technology. Mr. Kim, thank you for your presentation on your non-power fingerprint card. Now let us move on to our Q&A session and discussion. We do have a little pre-inquiry from floor and from our presenters. Chairman, you may moderate the presentation session.
Thank you. We have how much time we have?
About 15 minutes or
10 minutes?
Yeah.
We have excluding me, two Korean two presenters from Korean side and two presenters from Vietnam side. But Longzo because of his the business schedule, he excused himself. So I think there are some questions from both sides of the two countries, to each other. But I think in Vietnam side, Professor Tuan Pan, you are the very one to the answer to some questions. I think the aim. John Lee, CTO, co-founder of the AIMS, have some questions to the Vietnam side. There are many. You gave us as far as I know, there are 5 questions, but I think if you think it's proper to the Professor Tuan Pan, can you give some question to the Professor Tuan Pan?
Yeah, sure. I was very impressed about your presentation, and one of the things that really could be applied to our situation was it is really important to find a partner and find a good distributor. And we are thinking of expansion to Vietnam in a way that rather than establishing our own company in Vietnam, we wish to find a right partner. And is there any program or some accelerator in Vietnam which can help with this kind of expansion, which is finding a partner and making some cooperation with the local companies?
Yes, so sure. So first, I guess I'll put a little plug for my employer. And so that's for HKU, we are offering like programs to help companies connect with different partners. So as well as like understanding consumer behavior, do more market research. So that program hasn't been rolled out yet, but maybe urgency is more urgent. So but as far as I know, in insurance at the moment, I can't to be frank, I can't really say too much. I don't really know as well, right? But I can imagine that the typical insurance companies may be your best bet for AIA, Prudential, and so forth. And one of the issues is that Vietnam has a bit of regulation. And so by partnering, then they can help with the regulatory side. That's one thing. The second thing is that you can also consider maybe perhaps non-traditional partners. Some of the companies I worked with, they were able to, for example, with lending, they were able to partner with like pawn shops, which are allowed to do something similar, or they're able to partner with like some ride hailing or various other things. Right, so I guess my quick answer to you is consider the traditional insurance companies, but also expand the net, cast the net wider, and do check to see if there's any potential regulation that may drive your industry. We tried to work with some of the big companies and also the regulators to change the regulation, but it takes some time. It's not. It takes up. There's a lot of due diligence and things that they have to check. So it's not it's not going to be necessarily the fastest, depending on your time frame.
All right, thank you.
Professor Pan, that you told that there are some, the insurance companies in Vietnam, not only the traditional, but the foreign the insurance company working in Vietnam, but there's some other kind of the insurtech companies in Vietnam as well. There are many, or because the Korean insurtech, like the AIMS, if they're going to the Vietnam to do their business, not only they can cooperate with not only with the traditional or the foreign insurance companies, big companies, but in some sense have a chance to cooperate with the insurtech in Vietnam as well. There are many.
Off the top of my head, sorry, I don't know that sector as well. Definitely, we can investigate a bit further. It's here in Hong Kong, I work with like Ping An and some of the larger ones here. But Vietnam, I think that not off the top of my head at the moment.
So still there is. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, I can share some case that I had in the when I was in Vietnam VSV accelerator. So I've been there for a month, and I could meet a lot of startups in Vietnam, and one of them was WeCare, which got the funding from VSV funding, and we really could talk really deep about the insurance service and try to make a new service. We shared a lot of opinions, but the thing is that they were really doing their business really hard, and it was really early stage. And for us, we were doing a lot of projects in Korea, so it was kind of hard to cooperate together. So I think if there's some program, like long-term program, it's not just like accelerating program within like a month or 2 months. If there's a channel between the Vietnamese startups and Korean startups to communicate in the long term, then I think we can make some progress in there. But and also if the channel gets bigger and the community gets bigger, maybe we can invite some of the large companies in Vietnam or in Korea, so that we can build this ecosystem between the two countries.
It's a good idea, but I think there are two channels. In that sense, you're saying that one is the Vietnamese some accelerators or venture capitalists to help the fintech, including insurtech from Korea to connect with the Vietnamese financial institution or Vietnamese fintech enterprise. But another thing is that as I mentioned in our congratulatory remarks, the labs, Korean fintech labs, there are two cases, from Uri Bank and the National Bank. They have the Dino Lab or Shinan fintech lab in Hanoi. Why they set up the fintech lab in Vietnam? Because the fintech small fintech startups, like your company, very difficult to go there to do business, the consuming time and money, right? So they have their own lab in there, So to help not only Korea the fintech insurtech enterprise, but the Vietnamese the fintech enterprise or the financial institution to come there and cooperate with each other, a chance to customize the business model. So I think 2 channels as well. So I think if we have the Lojo, he can probably, I think his company is very focusing on the investing in the fintech, or insurtech. So he can answer something to you, but we can later we can communicate with him as well. And Professor Tuan Pan. Anyway, that I'm very happy to see you, because I heard many things from partner song, and you are very a lot of interest not only in area of the research, but in area of the I hear in area of the connecting, for example the fintech and enterprise with the financial institution to vice versa. Not only yes, inbound and outbound. So if you are focusing on some area, can you explain us the scale of
Yeah. So I guess a couple of things. One is through this new Vietnam Center, the HKU Vietnam Center. Our bigger mission is to kind of connect Vietnam with the rest of the world. Right. So that's eventually we're going to bring down also the whole university, the medical school, engineering, and whatnot. So we'll be the most global university with boots on the ground in Vietnam. So that's a big investment that we're making already. So that's the first part. The second part then is the business school is going down there first. And our goal is really to connect, bi-directional connection with Vietnam and the rest of the world. Right. So we'll have like a research center there. We'll have teaching, and also, as I mentioned to John Lee, that we're also going to be offering programs to kind of lead companies. At the moment, of course, we're focusing on mainland and Hong Kong companies to bring to Vietnam, but through connections, we'll build up these programs. If you're interested in like instead of manufacturing in Vietnam or insurance or fintech, then we'll help you connect. And also see what the consumer behavior is like and see if it's a good market fit, right? So that's kind of the business side. On the fintech side, then definitely been working with a few fintech startups as well as banks, both in the Vietnam and overseas for the Vietnam market, right? So lending and peer-to-peer lending, I mentioned with the Finvolution case, has been going on for quite some time. I know a lot of people at the State Bank of Vietnam, which helping connect with several companies with State Bank of Vietnam as well, regulators. But I understand that the SBV themselves are quite progressive, but it takes time to kind of pass laws and regulations through the rest of the government. Right. So I think that it's hopeful, but it takes time. But also, in some sectors, banking in particular, they've been on hold of issuing new banking licenses and some new things. So that's why for AIMS, it's a good idea to just partner with someone who has the appropriate license, right? And potentially also partner with someone who has the distribution. So another idea I was thinking about is also you might consider both Momo, which is the mobile money. If they have a wide adoption, and I understand they also try and build a lot of partnerships through other financial services. So they're kind of a peer-to-peer payment system, right? That's quite popular in Vietnam. But also, potentially even going directly to employers, some of the biggest employers in Vietnam, who have car insurance needs and AIMS could be like a value added, right? But to answer your question, so I've been focusing on really fintech is a big chunk of it, and also kind of the broader digital business in Vietnam as well. But a lot of it is just being controlled a lot by regulations.
Thank you. And okay. 이 대표님, 이사님, 종근리, is there any other questions to Professor Donpan?
I had some questions about the VC process and the investments, but I'm sorry that Long, though he excused himself. I mean, he has some work, so he couldn't be here. So maybe I can send some questions on the by email. Would it be fine if I send the questions to Long? If I have any question regarding the investments and the process?
Because as for the venture capitalists in Vietnam, I think the Lojo can answer to you, or the partner Song in Betrayal Valley. I hear the Betrayal Valley is the largest accelerator in Vietnam, so he can answer to you as well. And
sure.
Then there are. Yeah, we can.
I just also want to add in on this aspect. So I also work on the investment committee of some family offices at some of the VC in Vietnam. So I guess there are a number of accelerators. It's been growing quite a bit. So Vietnam Silicon Valley is one. Visa, VISSA is another one. That also has a lot of great network. Singapore, Block 71 just opened up, and I think in Hanoi as well, which has a lot of access, mostly Singapore-based ventures, right? But they have a great network, so you can also talk to them. I guess for us, when we invest as a family office, it depends on different VCs have different level of traction that they're targeting. Right? Some are like very early stage. It sounds to me like you already have the technology. You're trying to maybe port it to Vietnam. Right? And so there'll be other types of VCs who are more in that model. So not everyone, some people, and especially some of the Hong Kong and mainland VCs and family offices, they sometimes investigate they focus on very deep tech, right? I know the other thing about Hong Kong family offices, sometimes they are looking for a diverse board members. Right, so board members, both men and women, with different backgrounds, which has been shown to lead to a greater level of success. So I think that's maybe one advice I'd give is just having a diverse board member appeals to several different types of VCs.
Thank you. I think that helps very much to you, the Johnny as well. Anyway, very happy yes. That we have the Professor Donpan in Hong Kong, because we have the street triangle in Seoul, Hanoi, and the Hong Kong. I remember I dropped by in the Cyber Post in Hong Kong 3 or 4 years to meet vice chairman. I forgot his name, but as keep the deep impression to me. And so I think there are many the chances for us to cooperate with each other.
So I'm actually in Cyberport right now, so I don't know if you can see your members, so you can see.
Thank you. Anyway, if we have a good if the COVID pandemic is done, finished, we can meet each other and we have a chance.
That'd be great.
There are some other the questions from audience, but I think we can after our the webinar, we can email to them our the answer to them by other the vehicles. What could be possible cooperation between Korean fintech and Vietnamese banks for overseas remittance? But I think that it's a little bit broad. So later we can connect with each other. And also we have another questions in area of the cryptocurrency and blockchain. It is the kind of the big issue in Korea as well. So we cannot touch another time. Anyway, time passed a lot. Thank you very much, Professor Tuan Pan. We have we'll have another chance to meet each other with the partner song as well. 이 대표님, 이 파트너님 감사합니다 오늘. 예.
네, 감사합니다.
예. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure being here. Take it. Bye bye.
Thank you, speakers and presenters and online audience for staying together this afternoon for Vietnam Korea FinTech webinar. It has been a very meaningful time to share your ideas and expert views and as to enhance FinTech cooperation and partnership so that we can